When Lena Johns stepped off the bus into the quiet town of Willow Creek, she felt as though she had crossed into another world entirely. The bustling noise of Chicago was replaced by the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of birds. At 35, Lena was ready for a fresh start after a painful divorce and years of relentless corporate pressure. Willow Creek, with its charming Main Street, flower-filled gardens, and friendly smiles, seemed like the perfect place to rebuild her life. She had inherited her late aunt's cozy Victorian house on the edge of town, a beautiful but slightly weathered home surrounded by towering oak trees. As she unlocked the front door, the scent of aged wood and lavender greeted her, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. Though dust coated the furniture and silence filled the halls, Lena saw not decay, but possibility. She spent her first days unpacking boxes, scrubbing floors, and opening windows to let sunlight pour into every forgotten corner. The physical work soothed her restless mind, giving her a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Soon, neighbors began to stop by, bringing homemade pies, fresh flowers, and kind introductions. Among them was Michael Harper, the town's handsome carpenter, whose easy smile and steady blue eyes immediately caught her attention. Michael offered to help repair her creaky porch steps. And though Lena insisted she could manage, she found herself grateful for his presence. There was something comforting about his quiet strength and genuine kindness. As days turned into weeks, Lena slowly began to settle into the rhythm of small-town life. She discovered the local bookstore, where she spent rainy afternoons with coffee and novels, and the farmer's market, where vibrant produce and lively conversations brightened her Saturdays. For the first time in years, she felt herself breathe deeply, sleep peacefully, and smile without effort. Yet beneath her growing contentment lingered uncertainty. Could she truly leave her painful past behind? Could this peaceful town really become home? Standing on her porch one golden evening, watching fireflies dance across the yard, Lena realized that new beginnings were never simple. They required courage, patience, and the willingness to trust again. But as Michael waved from across the street and the warm summer breeze brushed against her skin, she felt a spark of hope. In Willow Creek, surrounded by beauty and possibility, Lena's story was only just beginning. As summer deepened in Willow Creek, Lena began weaving herself into the fabric of the town in ways she never expected. Each morning started with a walk to Daisy's Cafe, where the rich aroma of fresh coffee and cinnamon pastries welcomed her like an old friend. The cafe quickly became her sanctuary, a place where locals gathered not just for breakfast, but for connection. Daisy herself, a spirited woman in her 60s with silver curls and endless wisdom, took Lena under her wing. Through warm conversations over steaming mugs, Lena learned the town's stories, traditions, and unspoken bonds. She also learned more about Michael Harper, whose reputation as dependable, kind-hearted, and quietly reserved only deepened her curiosity. Michael seemed to appear whenever Lena needed him most. Whether fixing a stubborn window frame, recommending the best hiking trails, or simply sharing a smile during town events, his presence became an increasingly comforting constant. One Saturday, the annual Willow Creek Summer Festival filled Main Street with music, laughter, and colorful decorations. Lena hesitated to attend, worried she still felt like an outsider, but Daisy insisted. Dressed in a simple blue sundress, Lena wandered through artisan stalls and homemade food stands, gradually relaxing into the joyful atmosphere. When Michael approached and invited her to dance under the string lights as the local band played, she felt an unfamiliar flutter in her chest. At first, she resisted, her wounds from past heartbreak still tender, but Michael's gentle patience disarmed her fears. As they swayed together beneath the stars, Lena felt something shift inside her. For the first time since her divorce, she allowed herself to enjoy the moment without overthinking the future. Their laughter came easily, and Michael's touch was respectful yet undeniably electric. Still, Lena's journey toward healing was not without challenges. Late at night, memories of betrayal and self-doubt resurfaced, whispering that happiness was fragile and temporary. She questioned whether she was truly ready to open her heart again or if she was merely escaping loneliness. Meanwhile, restoring her aunt's house became symbolic of her own transformation. With every repaired wall and polished floorboard, Lena felt herself rebuilding not just a home, but her identity. She began writing again, a passion she had abandoned years ago, filling journals with reflections, hopes, and the first sparks of creative inspiration. Willow Creek was doing more than offering refuge. It was awakening forgotten parts of her soul. By summer's end, Lena realized she was no longer simply surviving. She was beginning to live. And while her connection with Michael remained tender and undefined, she sensed that both the town and the man who had quietly entered her life were offering her something precious. A second chance. As autumn arrived in Willow Creek, the town transformed into a breathtaking landscape of amber leaves, crisp air, and golden sunsets that painted the horizon each evening. Lena found herself enchanted not only by the season's beauty but by the quiet peace that had gradually taken root within her heart. Her once unfamiliar routines now felt natural. Morning coffee at Daisy's Cafe, afternoons writing in the sunlit corner of her restored living room, and evenings spent on her porch watching the leaves drift gently to the ground had become cherished rituals. But perhaps the most meaningful change was Michael's growing presence in her life. Their friendship had deepened over the past months, evolving into something layered with trust, warmth, and an undeniable emotional undercurrent. Michael was patient, never rushing her, never demanding more than she was ready to give. Instead, he offered consistency. He listened when Lena shared pieces of her painful past, and his quiet understanding made her feel safe in ways she had long forgotten were possible. One cool October afternoon, Michael invited Lena to accompany him to the Harper family orchard just outside town. The sprawling land, lined with rows of apple trees heavy with fruit, held generations of family history. As they spent the day picking apples, laughing over crooked ladders, and sharing stories beneath the rustling branches, Lena saw another side of him. Here, Michael was not just the town carpenter. He was a man deeply rooted in love, loyalty, and resilience. As the sun began to set, they sat on a worn wooden fence, sipping hot cider while the sky blazed orange and pink. In that peaceful moment, Michael gently took Lena's hand, his touch steady and sincere. He confessed that from the day she arrived, he had admired her strength, even when she couldn't see it herself. Lena's heart pounded, both with fear and hope. Her past still lingered like a shadow, but Michael's honesty felt different from anything she had known before. Instead of pressure, there was patience. Instead of promises too grand to trust, there was simple truth. Though Lena wasn't ready to fully surrender her heart, she allowed herself a small but powerful step forward. She leaned in and kissed him softly beneath the autumn sky. It was a kiss filled not with desperation, but with possibility. Yet even as happiness blossomed, life reminded Lena that healing was rarely linear. Unexpectedly, her ex-husband Mark reached out, claiming regret and seeking reconciliation. His message stirred old emotions, confusion, and painful memories she thought she had left behind. Faced with the contrast between her toxic past and her hopeful present, Lena was forced to confront how much she had truly changed. Willow Creek was no longer just a place to hide. It had become the setting where she would define her future. And as falling leaves swirled around her, Lena realized that sometimes new beginnings required not only opening new doors, but firmly closing old ones. Mark's sudden reappearance unsettled Lena far more than she wanted to admit. His email was carefully written, filled with apologies, nostalgic memories, and promises that he had changed. For several sleepless nights, she stared at the glowing screen, her thoughts tangled between anger, sadness, and the faint ghost of the woman she used to be. In Chicago, Mark had once represented ambition, excitement, and the life she thought she wanted. But Willow Creek had given her distance, and distance had brought clarity. She began to recognize how often she had sacrificed her own happiness to preserve a relationship built on imbalance. Still, healing old wounds did not erase the scars. And Lena knew she needed closure. Encouraged by Daisy's wisdom and Michael's quiet support, she decided to meet Mark one final time when he offered to visit Willow Creek. The day he arrived, his polished city confidence felt strangely out of place against the town's gentle authenticity. As they sat across from one another at Daisy's cafe, Lena immediately noticed how much she had changed. Mark still spoke in grand plans and persuasive words, but for the first time, she saw the emptiness beneath them. He apologized for his betrayals and admitted losing her had made him realize her worth. Yet his remorse no longer held the power it once did. Lena listened calmly, her heart steady, and understood that his regrets were no longer her burden to carry. She thanked him for his apology but made it clear that her life had moved forward. She was no longer searching for validation in someone else's promises. She had found herself again. Mark's disappointment was visible, but so was his reluctant respect. Walking away from that conversation, Lena felt lighter than she had in years. It was not revenge or bitterness she carried, but freedom. That evening, as she returned home, Michael was waiting on her porch with 2 cups of coffee and his familiar patient smile. He did not pressure her for answers. He simply sat beside her as the sunset painted the sky in hues of lavender and gold. Lena shared everything, and for the first time, speaking about her past did not reopen old wounds. Instead, it marked how far she had come. Michael gently reminded her that strength was not measured by never falling, but by choosing to rise each time life knocked her down. His words settled deep within her. In the weeks that followed, Lena embraced her future with renewed certainty. She joined the town council's holiday planning committee, expanded her writing into a serious novel project, and allowed herself to fully explore her feelings for Michael. Their connection blossomed naturally, grounded in honesty and mutual respect. As Willow Creek prepared for its annual Winter Lights Festival, Lena realized that this small town had done more than offer her refuge. It had transformed her. For the first time, she was not rebuilding from brokenness. She was building from strength. And with each passing day, her new beginning felt less like an escape and more like the life she was always meant to find. Winter arrived in Willow Creek like a scene from a cherished storybook. Snow blanketed the rooftops, twinkling lights adorned every storefront, and the scent of pine, cinnamon, and fresh-baked cookies drifted through the crisp air. Lena found herself embracing the season with a joy she hadn't experienced since childhood. The town's warmth during the holidays was contagious, and as she worked alongside neighbors preparing for the Winter Lights Festival, she felt more deeply connected than ever. Her role on the planning committee kept her busy with decorating the town square, organizing charity drives, and helping Daisy prepare special holiday events at the cafe. These simple acts of community brought Lena a profound sense of purpose she had never found in her fast-paced corporate career. Meanwhile, her relationship with Michael deepened in ways both exhilarating and comforting. Their connection had moved beyond uncertainty into something steady and genuine. Michael remained thoughtful and dependable, whether surprising her with handmade ornaments for her Victorian home or inviting her on snowy evening walks through the glowing streets of Willow Creek. Lena discovered that love did not have to be chaotic to be meaningful. It could be patient, kind, and rooted in trust. One particularly magical evening during the festival's opening ceremony, Michael led Lena to the center of the town square beneath a towering Christmas tree shimmering with thousands of lights. As snowflakes drifted softly around them and carolers sang nearby, he presented her with a beautifully carved wooden keepsake box he had made by hand. Inside was a delicate silver key pendant, symbolizing not only her new home but the way she had unlocked parts of herself she thought were lost forever. Overcome with emotion, Lena realized how profoundly Michael understood her journey. Their kiss beneath the sparkling lights felt like the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. Yet even amidst happiness, challenges remained. Lena received unexpected news that her former company in Chicago wanted her back, offering an even more prestigious position and a substantial salary increase. Months earlier, such an opportunity would have been irresistible. Now, it forced her to examine what success truly meant. The offer represented security, status, and the version of herself she had spent years chasing. But Willow Creek represented peace, authenticity, love, and creative fulfillment. The decision weighed heavily on her, stirring fears about financial stability and whether choosing happiness over ambition was truly wise. Through heartfelt conversations with Daisy and Michael, Lena began to understand that success was not defined by titles or paychecks, but by the life one built each day. Standing in her warmly lit home, surrounded by her writing, her growing confidence, and the town that had become family, Lena made her choice. She declined the corporate offer. It was a defining act of self-trust. By choosing Willow Creek, she was not settling. She was claiming the life she genuinely wanted. As Christmas morning dawned, Lena stood by her window watching snow fall gently across her peaceful new world, her heart fuller than it had ever been. For the first time, she understood that new beginnings were not about running from the past. They were about choosing, with courage, where your soul truly belongs. The new year arrived in Willow Creek with quiet beauty and the promise of possibility. As church bells rang softly through the frosty January air and fireworks faded into memory, Lena stood on her porch wrapped in a thick wool blanket, reflecting on the remarkable transformation of the past year. She had arrived in town carrying heartbreak, uncertainty, and emotional exhaustion. Now, she welcomed the future with strength, clarity, and a sense of belonging she had never known before. Her Victorian home, once dusty and forgotten, had become a true reflection of her spirit. Warm, inviting, and filled with purpose. Inside its restored walls, Lena had created not only a sanctuary, but a space where her long-neglected dreams could flourish. Her writing, once a private source of healing, had evolved into something more serious. Encouraged by Daisy and Michael, Lena committed herself fully to completing her novel, a deeply personal story inspired by resilience, reinvention, and the quiet courage it takes to begin again. Each morning, she wrote by the fireplace as snow drifted outside her windows, pouring her heart into every page. For the first time, her creativity felt not like an escape, but like a calling. Michael remained her steady partner through it all, supporting her ambitions without overshadowing them. Their love had settled into a beautiful rhythm, built on shared values and mutual encouragement. They spent winter evenings cooking together, attending town gatherings, and dreaming about future renovations for both Lena's home and Michael's expanding carpentry business. Though their bond was strong, Lena still grappled occasionally with lingering fears. Could happiness truly last? Was she deserving of this peaceful life after so many years of struggle? But Michael's unwavering presence helped quiet those doubts, reminding her that love was not something to fear when it was built on trust rather than instability. In February, Willow Creek hosted its annual winter charity gala, a beloved tradition supporting local families in need. Lena played a central role in organizing the event, and her natural leadership surprised even herself. Gone was the woman who once measured her value solely through corporate achievements. In her place stood someone stronger, more compassionate, and deeply connected to her community. During the gala, Daisy publicly praised Lena's contributions, calling her one of Willow Creek's greatest blessings. The heartfelt recognition moved Lena deeply, affirming how profoundly she had become part of the town's heart. That same evening, Michael took her hand beneath the glow of crystal chandeliers and softly told her he loved her. The words, simple yet profound, filled Lena with both tenderness and certainty. For the first time, she said the words back without hesitation. It was not the desperate love of her past, but something richer. A love built on healing. As winter slowly began to thaw, Lena realized that her journey was no longer about recovering from what she had lost. It was about embracing all she had gained. Willow Creek had given her more than a second chance. It had given her a life aligned with her truest self. And with spring on the horizon, Lena sensed that her new beginning was still unfolding, filled with even greater possibilities than she had ever dared imagine. Spring arrived in Willow Creek with a quiet brilliance that seemed to mirror Lena's own awakening. Snow melted into rushing streams, flower buds pushed through thawing earth, and the entire town seemed to bloom with renewed life. For Lena, the season carried more than beauty. It brought momentum. Her manuscript was nearing completion, and for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine what it would mean to share her story beyond the walls of her cozy home. Daisy, ever her champion, organized a small gathering at the cafe where Lena read selected passages aloud to friends and neighbors. Nervous at first, Lena's voice grew steadier with each page, and by the evening's end, the room was filled with heartfelt applause and even tears. Her words had resonated deeply, not just because they were well written, but because they were honest. They reflected struggle, growth, and hope. Michael watched from the back of the room with unmistakable pride, his admiration grounding her more than any praise ever could. Soon after, with encouragement from her community, Lena submitted her manuscript to several publishers. It was a leap she never would have dared before Willow Creek taught her to believe in herself again. At the same time, her personal life flourished alongside her professional courage. Michael's carpentry business expanded rapidly as his reputation spread beyond neighboring towns. And together they began discussing larger dreams. They considered restoring the old barn on Lena's property into a shared creative workshop. A space where Michael could design custom furniture and Lena could host writing retreats. The idea symbolized not just partnership, but a future built side by side. Yet life's path remained layered with complexity. Lena's mother, with whom she had always shared a somewhat distant relationship, announced an unexpected visit from Chicago. Her mother had long prioritized appearances and social expectations, often questioning Lena's choices. The thought of introducing her to this entirely new life stirred old insecurities. When her mother arrived, she initially viewed Willow Creek as quaint but limiting, subtly criticizing Lena's departure from her prestigious corporate path. But over the course of the visit, she witnessed her daughter's genuine happiness, confidence, and the loving support surrounding her. She saw the restored home, the thriving community, and Michael's sincere devotion. For perhaps the first time, Lena's mother acknowledged that success did not always wear the form she had imagined. Their conversations were not without tension, but they opened doors to understanding and healing between them. By the time spring festivals filled the town square with music and blossoms, Lena felt stronger than ever. She was no longer seeking approval from her past or validation from outdated definitions of achievement. She had built a life that reflected her own values. When Michael surprised her with a picnic beneath Willow Creek's blooming cherry trees, he spoke not of grand promises, but of shared dreams, steady love, and the life they were creating together. Lena realized then that true fulfillment was not found in dramatic reinvention alone, but in the daily choice to nurture what mattered most. As petals drifted around them in the warm breeze, Lena understood that her story was no longer about escape. It was about arrival. She had finally found the place, the purpose, and the love that felt like home. By early summer, Willow Creek was alive with sunlight, laughter, and the comforting rhythm of familiar joys. Lena's life had settled into a fullness she once believed existed only in fiction. The town's gardens overflowed with roses and wildflowers, children rode bicycles along tree-lined streets, and the farmers' market buzzed with music and fresh produce each weekend. Amid this vibrant season, Lena received life-changing news. A respected publishing house had accepted her manuscript for publication. The email arrived on an ordinary Tuesday morning, yet its impact was extraordinary. As she read the offer, tears filled her eyes. Her deeply personal story, born from pain and healing, would now reach readers far beyond Willow Creek. Years ago, Lena had measured success through promotions and corporate milestones. Now, this achievement felt profoundly different. It was not about status, but authenticity. Her voice mattered. Her journey had meaning. Daisy immediately organized a celebratory gathering at the cafe, while Michael proudly insisted on crafting custom bookshelves for the home office Lena had transformed into her writing sanctuary. Surrounded by the people who had become her chosen family, Lena felt an overwhelming gratitude for the unexpected path that had brought her here. Yet success also brought new opportunities and difficult choices. Her publisher invited her to New York City for meetings, promotional planning, and networking events. The offer was thrilling, but it stirred familiar anxieties. The fast-paced world she had once left behind now beckoned again, though under entirely different circumstances. Lena feared being pulled away from the peace she had fought so hard to build. Michael, however, encouraged her wholeheartedly. He reminded her that embracing growth did not mean abandoning the life she loved. For perhaps the first time, Lena understood that she no longer had to choose between ambition and happiness. She could pursue both, provided she remained true to herself. During her brief trip to New York, Lena was struck by how differently she viewed the city. The noise, urgency, and polished ambition that once consumed her no longer defined her aspirations. Instead, she carried Willow Creek's grounded wisdom within her. She navigated meetings confidently, proud of her story and unwilling to compromise her voice for commercial trends. Returning home, she felt not temptation to return, but renewed appreciation for the life awaiting her. Meanwhile, Michael's own dreams continued expanding. He was offered a significant contract to restore several historic properties nearby, solidifying his business as one of the region's most respected. Together, Lena and Michael's successes seemed to rise in harmony, not competition. Their relationship had become a model of partnership rooted in mutual support rather than sacrifice. As the annual summer solstice celebration approached, Michael planned something deeply meaningful. Beneath lantern-lit trees beside Willow Creek's riverbank, surrounded by friends, family, and the golden glow of sunset, he asked Lena to marry him. His proposal was simple, heartfelt, and perfectly reflective of the love they had built. Lena's joyful yes echoed through tears, laughter, and applause. In that unforgettable moment, she realized her new beginning had evolved into something even greater than she once dared hope. She had not only rebuilt her life. She had created a future filled with love, purpose, and the unwavering certainty that sometimes the bravest choice is trusting happiness when it finally arrives. The months following Lena and Michael's engagement unfolded with a beautiful mixture of excitement, purpose, and reflection. Autumn once again painted Willow Creek in rich shades of crimson and gold, bringing Lena's journey full circle. Nearly 2 years had passed since she first arrived in town, carrying little more than broken dreams and cautious hope. Now, as she walked through streets lined with glowing pumpkins, bustling harvest markets, and familiar smiling faces, she felt deeply rooted in a life she had consciously chosen. Wedding preparations filled much of her time, but unlike the stressful perfectionism of her former life, Lena approached this chapter with joy rather than pressure. She and Michael envisioned a celebration that reflected who they truly were. Intimate, meaningful, and centered around community. They chose to hold their wedding on Lena's restored property, transforming the sprawling backyard into a breathtaking autumn venue complete with handcrafted wooden arches, candlelit pathways, and seasonal flowers. Michael poured himself into every detail, building furniture, decorative touches, and even the ceremony altar with his own hands. Lena, meanwhile, balanced wedding planning with the final stages of her book's release. As publication day approached, advance reviews praised her novel for its emotional honesty and inspiring message. Readers connected deeply with her themes of resilience, self-discovery, and second chances. Bookstores requested appearances, interviews were scheduled, and Lena found herself stepping into a role she had never imagined. Not just survivor, but creator. Despite the growing public attention, Willow Creek remained her anchor. Daisy proudly displayed her book in the cafe window, local residents organized launch celebrations, and Michael reminded her daily that her greatest success was not fame, but staying true to herself. Yet amid all the happiness, Lena faced one final emotional crossroads. Mark reached out once more, this time not seeking reconciliation, but offering genuine congratulations after hearing of her success and engagement. The message surprised her, but instead of reopening old wounds, it served as a quiet reminder of how profoundly she had evolved. She responded graciously, with peace rather than pain, recognizing that true healing meant releasing resentment entirely. Her past no longer held power over her present. On the eve of her wedding, Lena sat alone on her porch, much as she had on the day she first arrived, watching fireflies shimmer beneath the stars. But the woman sitting there now was transformed. She was no longer afraid of uncertainty or defined by heartbreak. She had built a home, a career, a community, and a love rooted in authenticity. The next day, beneath a canopy of autumn leaves and surrounded by everyone who had supported her journey, Lena married Michael. Their vows were simple yet profound, promising partnership, honesty, and the courage to continue growing together. As they danced beneath string lights and the cool evening sky, Lena understood with absolute clarity that new beginnings were not singular moments. They were ongoing choices. Choices to trust, to heal, to create, and to love. Willow Creek had given her a second chance, but she had done the hardest part herself. She had chosen it. And in doing so, she had found not only a new beginning, but the truest version of her life. Years later, Lena often found herself standing on the wide front porch of the Victorian home that had once symbolized uncertainty and now represented everything she held dear. Willow Creek had continued to flourish around her, but more importantly, so had she. Life was no longer about recovery from the past, but about building a future rich with meaning, connection, and enduring joy. Her marriage to Michael became the steady foundation she had once doubted was possible. Together, they transformed not only their property but also their shared dreams into reality. The old barn had become a thriving creative center called New Beginning Studio, where Michael crafted exquisite custom furniture and Lena hosted writing workshops for aspiring authors seeking their own voices. People traveled from neighboring towns and distant cities alike, drawn not only by their talents but by the atmosphere of hope and authenticity they had created. Lena's novel became a national success, touching countless readers who saw pieces of themselves in her story. She went on to write additional books, each exploring themes of courage, transformation, and love, but her greatest pride was not in literary acclaim. It was in knowing her words helped others believe in second chances. Despite professional achievements, Lena remained deeply grounded in Willow Creek. She continued volunteering at Daisy's Cafe, mentoring young writers, and participating in every harvest festival, holiday parade, and community fundraiser with the same gratitude she had felt from the beginning. Daisy eventually retired, passing ownership of the beloved cafe to Lena, who preserved its heart while adding a cozy reading room that became a treasured gathering place. Through every chapter, Lena understood that true success was not measured by status, but by impact. Her relationship with her mother softened over the years as mutual understanding replaced old expectations. Even Mark faded fully into the past, no longer a source of pain but simply part of the journey that had shaped her. Lena and Michael eventually welcomed children into their lives, raising them beneath oak trees, among wildflower gardens, and within a community that valued kindness over competition. Their home was filled with laughter, creativity, and the kind of emotional security Lena once feared she might never experience. On the 10th anniversary of her arrival in Willow Creek, the town organized a celebration honoring Lena's contributions as an author, businesswoman, and cherished member of the community. Standing before friends, neighbors, and family in the same town square where she had once nervously danced with Michael under festival lights, Lena reflected on how profoundly life could change when one chose courage over fear. In her speech, she shared the lesson that had come to define her life. New beginnings are not reserved for the lucky. They are created by those willing to let go of what no longer serves them and step bravely toward what does. As applause echoed around her and Michael's hand found hers, Lena looked out at the town that had given her refuge and realized Willow Creek had never simply been a place to start over. It had been the place where she finally became herself. And in that truth, Lena Jones's story found its most beautiful conclusion. Not an ending, but a life fully, fearlessly, and wonderfully lived.